So I've got a little bit of the prep work done to begin starting this new bulkhead project. Like I said before, what I'm doing is I'm moving this wall right here is a bulkhead, and I'm going to basically replace it with a new one that is about 15 inches more aft in the boat. And this is so that this is for the new layout in the boat. So there are obviously many ways to do everything when it comes to modifying, fixing, building your boat. And this is one way I know how to do it. Well, as you can see, what I've done is I've sanded the area where the bulkhead is going to be installed. I want there to be mostly clean fiberglass, no paint on it, no primer on it, just sanded fiberglass to adhere the new bulkhead to. I'm going to be using fiberglass and epoxy resin to glue it in, and so I want it to have the best adhesion possible, and that's with getting mostly fiberglass. As you can see, there's a little bit of paint left over, but it was, I've done enough. So now that I've got it sanded, I've taken a laser and I've drawn the line where the bulkhead is going to go. It's where this blue tape is here. And so that is the line where the new bulkhead is going to go. I'm going to build the bulkhead in 3 parts. And so there's going to be the port side, which is this side, and then there's the starboard side over here, and then there's going to be just a little small section right in the middle. And hopefully, something that will be really interesting is that hopefully I'll find out that the boat is symmetrical. It should be. I expect it to be next to perfectly symmetrical. But if I can draw and build the one side of the bulkhead, it should fit in the other side of the boat. So I'm going to do this one side first, cut out a mock bulkhead just out of like OSB plywood, and then see if it fits in the other side. Hopefully it does. So what I'm going to do is use this method. I can't remember. I've been told what this method is called before, and I can't remember what it's called. I'm sure everybody has a different name for it. But what it is basically is I've got this 2x4, which is square to the boat. So the boat is level, both fore and aft and side to side. And this 2x4 right here, this 2x4 is square, so it's level straight up and down, and it's level fore and aft. It is perfectly in line with the blue tape. And then I've screwed this piece of plywood to it. And so it's actually this piece of plywood is perfectly in line with where the edge of the bulkhead is going to go. So I take this long stick with a point on it. And this is it's a perfectly straight edge on this stick with a little point on it. And what I do is at every kind of change in the hole shape going around the hole, I take a line and take kind of a reference mark. And so I'll put the stick up into, say, this corner like that, and I hold the stick onto this piece of plywood, and I draw a line, I trace a line along the stick. And then, so that lets me know like exactly what the angle is according to the bulkhead that I'm going to be cutting out. And then I also mark a little mark on the stick where it meets the edge of the plywood. And so that lets me know how far in and out that the stick needs to go, and this line helps me figure out what the angle is. And then I go all the way around and I do a line at this corner, and I do a line at the shear, and another line here, and I do a few lines going down the whole side, going all the way down, and I number each of them, both with a number on the stick of where my edges are, and a line and a number showing where it corresponds on the bulkhead. And so this edge right here is going to be the edge of the bulkhead that I'm going to cut out. And then the stick figures out where, as I go up and around, it figures out where the whole edge of the bulkhead is going to be. I try not to do too many points along the hole because it clutters up the board pretty quickly. But I try to get enough so that I can kind of get a really good idea of what the shape of the hole is going to be. And so, for instance, on this one, I ended up with 14 lines total. Okay, so now that I've got this drawn on my line board, I'm going to take this line board off and take it to the shop, and I'll have my two pieces of 4x8 sheets of OSB that are tied together, and I'm going to use my stick and my board to draw the bulkhead onto my piece of OSB. So see how it turns out. Okay, so I've used my line board to draw out this mock-up bulkhead, and so I'll show you how I did it. And so on my board, I've got all the numbers lined up for all the numbers on the side here for each line that is drawn. And they correspond to lines on the side of my pointer stick. And so I go to number 1, which is at the bottom of the hole, and I line it up with the number 1 line here. And then this is kind of like the distance line. The line along the board is the angle, and then this is the distance, so I line up that with the end of the board. And that points to the point on the OSB for where the first mark of the hole is. And then, so I put an X there. And then I go to number 2, which is right here. And number 2 is right here on my pointer stick. And I line it up with my line on the board. And I make a mark right here. And I continue to do that all the way through. I have to go around the stringer right here, and then I have to go point out there, and there, and there, and all the way around to the top. And so the top mark is right here on the line board, and I line up the number that it corresponds to and mark it out. And so what I ended up with is a bunch of X's, little points on the plywood, and I just took my ruler and I connected them all together. So the hole is obviously curved, and so what I did is made a very, very basic, some like I think lofters, boat, naval architects would call this a spline, but it is just a bendable piece. Sometimes if people use a batten, just to draw a fair curve, and this drew a fair enough curve for me. This does not have to be exact. It needs to be close, but what's going to end up happening is I'm going to fill the void between the bulkhead and the hull, where it is not perfect, with glue. And so if this is not perfect, as long as I'm within, you know, ideally half an inch, something like that, then I'm going to be really happy with how it turns out. There might be some places where it's more, and I'll live with that. Otherwise, it's pretty much ready to be cut out. Yep. So I'm going to try and draw this out, and then I'll cut it out. Once I'd gotten the bulkhead cut out, or the mock-up bulkhead cut out, took it down to the boat and kind of shoved it in place, and it ended up fitting in really, really well. It was really closed on both sides, and so I didn't have to do much trimming or anything to get it to fit. So from there, my mock-up was done.